Thanks. Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll show the patch of how I did this, but to say first about why I made the music and what the electronics I was interested in, it's based around, well, kind of the topics we had talked about is pitch, ways we can shift pitch, and ways we can shift time. And I find it fascinating the way, or I was kind of thinking about how often we try to do one while not affecting the other. How can we reharmonize something but with retaining the time? Or how can we change the time of something while retaining the original pitch and formants, so that it can maintain perhaps with voice a more human quality. But then I decided to bind the two together, and I found that for me this is a way of also exploiting the idea of like the humanness or the physicality of voice and performance, because then we're confronted with these really high and really low voices, really high and really low guitar playing that stands in contrast to the dry recording input that we also hear in the mix. The piece is, well, what can I say? Well, what this whole patch does is that it controls delay time. And the way by having a continuous but constant changing of the delay time, we achieve a specific interval by which we can transpose the pitch. And I did this I built this patch so that these specific rates of changes of the delay are calculated so that they fit roughly equal tempered intervals that one can map onto a keyboard. So for an example, we can play this sine wave at 440. We hear this 440, and then if I give perhaps a G, which, sorry, it won't play a G, it will play a fifth. It's kind of mapped to C major. So if I play a fifth away on my G, it'll play me a fifth. And because these delay times, this pitch shift is achieved via a delay time, eventually the delay time ends and it reaches the moment that it finishes its delay process. And when it does that, it will either return back to the normal pitch, or I can start another delay process. And I do that by having the delay process go in the opposite direction at a speed at which we'll transpose, pitch shift it down to the same octave but below the note. So we hear the fifth above, which is also the fourth below. Example again, here's a minor third, which is also a major sixth below. Because this is a smaller distance, the delay time takes longer. And this is why we hear the change from the higher pitch to the lower pitch at a lower rate. I'll show the inner workings of it, but I'll do one more example. And here the delay is continuing. But I'll play you an audio that is somebody counting at 60 BPM. Because the second way I tampered with this delay is that they're also mapped to a tempo. So if I set this at tempo 60, and if I play these at the right time, we'll get some sort of semblance of a tempo synchronization.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
So you hear that the delay, when it's pitched up and down an octave, it's also the time is sped up by twice the speed and half the speed. I'll show you how this looks like within the patch. We have here our keyboard by which I'm controlling what interval we transpose. And these map out to specific values that will eventually get sent into this line. We remember when we talked about delay that it's from the gradual changing of the delay time to create that change in pitch. So these, all the delays are happening between a delay time of 4 seconds and a delay time of 5 seconds. And then the time at which it takes to reach that is different. Of like, if we have here, if I click the C, which is an octave change, then when the delay is going to be higher, then it will go from 4 seconds to 5 seconds in the span of 2 seconds. Or when it pitches down low, that's what happens when it pitches down low. And then when it pitches higher, it will move from 5,000 to 4,000 delay time in the span of 1 second. Basically, there are 4 values that are at play. The values of where the delay time, where the tap out value begins and where it ends, 4,000, 5,000. And then our 2 other values are the times at which we travel from 4,000 to 5,000 or 5,000 to 4,000. And we see here that our 2,000 is here, our 1,000 is here, and they get sent into the line, which then performs our delay transposition effect. So you can see here when I change my the pitch intervals, you can see that these third and fourth values are changing. However, if I want everything to move at a faster rate in general, you heard later in the song this kind of like moving back and forth towards the end that was moving quite fast. This has happened because we have various ways of changing the time factor of this whole thing. where it maintains this proportion of 4,000 to 5,000, but with lower values. For example, if I take a sort of BPM of 60 and crunch that time factor down by 8 parts, then our time factor goes from 1 to 1/8. And you can see here that we now have 500 and 625, 1/8 of 4,000 and 5,000. And you see here the delay line is going back and forth much more quickly. So when I made the piece, I used this patch in 3 different ways. The first is I just kind of set it up in the beginning, and I put in my tempo, which I recorded the piece at 65 BPM, and just kind of played and let it run for a while until we got to maybe the second verse, and then I increased the time factor so that we had really much longer stretches of low delay sounds, much longer stretches of high delay sounds, and this is where you got these really long whale-like voices. And then when we got to this part where the voice was without a guitar, where it was a cappella, because we're dealing with a single note, then the transposition can actually be used as a harmonization. And I mean, I could have harmonized it in a tonal way, but I didn't. I just kind of clicked some random things here. What was interesting is that if I harmonized the voice with a major second apart, then you got these quasi-diatonic harmonizations that didn't actually sound as if you were harmonizing with a line, but rather playing a counter melody. Because when you move something a major second higher, in a lot of instances, it will suggest the harmony of the dominant or the subdominant or something like that. And then finally, towards the end, we moved back into an octave transposition, but I did this like real fast sort of oscillating thing, and you get that kind of effect, and that's about the piece. That's the piece. Some ways that I could see myself changing this or improving upon this is that the overall effect is quite chaotic in the end. You don't really track along the motion of the delay. It just kind of creates this cloud. And I'd be interested to see to what degree I could harness a stronger control of these effects, maybe a stronger control also rhythmically to make it kind of, yeah, that you hear the delays oscillating in a very specific rhythmic fashion rather than kind of randomly pulling on things. The last thing I'll say is that it's not just the changing of the pitch, but because these changes also pull upon all the delay is pulling on this tap in function here that has 30 seconds of loaded material. So you can get these very interesting moments where if we are running a delay that's changing very, very quickly, and then suddenly you move to a delay that changes very, very slowly, then suddenly you'll start to hear audio that was inputted maybe 20 seconds in the past, and now it's finally getting recalled because of the way the delay is contracting and expanding and pulling upon what's been buffered in this tap-in object. So, yep, this is the thing that I prepared.